Hi and welcome to Francis Matete TV. Today we ask a difficult but necessary question. Is Kenya slowly but surely tiptoeing towards another cycle of election-related violence?
A lot of people here are having weapons and they are fighting each other.
This is not a prediction, nor is it an accusation against any individual or political formation. Rather, it is an examination of political trends that deserve careful scrutiny before the country enters another highly competitive election.
Hakuna jamii ilipigana zaidi ya Wakikuyu na Wakalenjin. Tuseme ukweli bana.
History teaches us that democratic decline rarely happens overnight. Societies often move towards crisis gradually through language, political incentives, identity mobilization, and deepening mistrust. Kenya has experienced this before. The violence that followed 2007 elections did not begin when the results were announced. It was preceded by years of increasingly polarized politics, ethnic narratives, elite competition, declining trust in political institutions, and many other factors. But today, nearly 2 decades later, some observers are asking whether similar warning signs are beginning to emerge. One of the central figures in this discussion is former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
Huyu Kasongo anasema atendea mkubwa ya mlima. Ni uongo si uongo? Nani kiongozi wa mlima Kenya? Nani kiongozi wa mlima Kenya?
This episode examines the post-impeachment political strategy, why it resonates with many supporters, and why it worries many analysts, and what it could mean for Kenya's democratic future.
Nyinyi ni wajinga kiasi gani? How foolish are you, members of parliament from this region? William Ruto is laughing at you.
The 2022 elections represented a historic transition. William Ruto, a Kalenjin from the Rift Valley, became president, ending 2 decades during which the presidency had been held by leaders from the Mount Kenya region. Rigathi Gachagua was central to that victory. He was not merely running mate. He was one of the principal mobilizer of support in the Mount Kenya region, and played a significant role in consolidating the Kenya Kwanza coalition.
Mimi nataka niambie hii watu ya Madera nikiwa hapa nyumbani. Huyu William Ruto ni sure bet.
However, following his impeachment and removal from office, Kenya's political landscape changed dramatically. Like many politicians who experience abrupt political exits, Gachagua sought a new political base from which to rebuild his influence. That base has largely been the Mount Kenya region. There is nothing inherently undemocratic about appealing to one's traditional support. Politicians across democracies rely on regional strongholds for their survival. The concern arises when political messaging shifts from regional representation to narratives that frame politics primarily as a struggle between ethnic communities. Political analysts distinguish between interest representation and ethnic mobilization. Interest representation focuses on policy grievances, development, taxation, infrastructure, agriculture, public service, or constitutional questions. Ethnic mobilization frames politics around collective identity, emphasizing that a particular community is being marginalized, is being excluded, or threatened because of what they are. This distinction matters. When citizens begin interpreting every political decision through an ethnic lens, compromise becomes more difficult. Political competition shifts from debates over policy to fears about communal survival and access to state power. In such environments, elections become emotionally charged contests in which defeat is perceived not simply as losing an election, but as losing protection, influence, and opportunity. Kenya's history offers important warnings. The country has experienced periods in which ethnicity became the dominant organizational principle of politics. The violence that followed the disputed 2007 elections remains one of the darkest chapters in Kenya's democratic history. More than 1,000 people lost their lives. Hundreds of thousands were displaced. Communities that lived together peacefully suddenly viewed one another with suspicion and fear. Importantly, the violence was not inevitable. It emerged from a combination of disputed electoral outcomes, inflammatory rhetorics, historical grievances, misinformation, local conflicts, and failures by the political elites to calm tensions. History reminds us that elections themselves do not create violence, but political narrative surrounding elections often determine whether societies remain peaceful or descend into conflict. Since leaving office, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua has become one of the administration's most vocal critics. His supporters argue that he is defending the political and economic interests of the Mount Kenya region and speaking on behalf of voters who feel disappointed by the government's performance. His critics argue that aspects of his rhetoric risk in reinforcing ethnic political identities and encouraging citizens to view national politics primarily through the lens of communal competition. Both perspectives deserve consideration. Every democracy needs a strong opposition. Opposition parties expose policy failures, scrutinize government's decisions, and provide voters with alternatives. However, political scientists generally distinguish between opposition based on governance and opposition that relies primarily on identity-based mobilization. The first strengthens democracy. The second can weaken social cohesion if it encourages citizens to distrust or resent other communities. One of the most studied concepts in comparative politics is ethnic outbidding. Ethnic outbidding occurs when politicians compete by making increasingly strong appeals to ethnic identity. Instead of persuading voters through ideas of policy, leaders gain support by convincing communities they alone can defend their collective interests. The danger is that rival politicians often respond with similar strategies. As one leader emphasizes one community, another emphasizes another community. Politics gradually become a competition between ethnic blocs rather than visions for national development. So when this happens, moderate voices become less influential, compromise becomes politically costly, citizens become more suspicious of one another, national identity weakens, while ethnic identity becomes politically dominant. This is precisely the trajectory that many divided societies have struggled to reverse. It would be inaccurate to conclude that Kenya is destined to experience violence in 2027. There are important differences between today and 2007. The 2010 Constitution created a stronger institutions. Devolution has reduced the concentration of power at the national level. The judiciary has demonstrated great independence in resolving electoral disputes. Civil society remains active. The media landscape is broader and more diverse. At the same time, warning signs should not be ignored. Increasing ethnic polarization, highly personalized political competition, inflammatory rhetoric from leaders across the political spectrum, economic hardships, and the rapid spread of misinformation through social media can create conditions in which tensions escalate if not responsibly managed. These risks are not unique to one politician or one political formation. They arise when political actors frame elections primarily as contests between communities rather than contests over ideas and public policy. Kenya's democracy is more mature than it was in 2007. But maturity does not guarantee immunity. Political stability depends not only on institutions, but also on the choices made by political leaders. Rigathi Gachagua, as a former deputy president, has every democratic right to oppose the government and to criticize policies he believes are failing the country. His experience inside government gives his voice political significance. At the same time, like all influential leaders, he also bears a responsibility to ensure that criticisms of the government does not evolve into a narrative that deepens the ethnic mistrust or encourage citizens to see fellow Kenyans as primarily through tribal identities.
And I want to tell my brother Irungu Kangata, I heard him saying that he wants to come with the Damonanchi to Olkalau. We don't need you there.
The same responsibility applies to President William Ruto, other opposition leaders, the media, civil society, and every political actor. The Kenya's next elections should be a contest of ideas, not identities. The lesson from 2007 is very clear. Countries rarely collapse because of one speech or one politician. They drift towards crisis when many actors gradually normalize division until polarization becomes stronger than the institution designed to contain it. The question for Kenya, therefore, is not whether violence is inevitable. It's whether political leaders and citizens will choose a path that strengthens national cohesion over ethnic competition. The answer to that question will shape not only the outcome of the 2027 elections, but also the future of Kenya's democracy. One truth stands out. Political polarization in Kenya is real, but it's not inevitable. The same diversity that can divide us can also become our greatest strength when we choose dialogue over hostility and shared solutions over partisan loyalty. The future of Kenya's democracy will depend not only on leaders but on citizens willing to listen, question, and build bridges across political lines. In the comment section, do you think some of our current politicians are fanning community polarization? In the comment section, please give me your feedback. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, let us keep the conversation going with respect, empathy, and hope for a more united Kenya. I rest my case.